Hi everyone. Today Sarah and I will be discussing how you can deal with isolation during a pandemic.
So first of all, we're going to go through our objectives. And for this presentation, the objectives are participants will be able to describe the effects of isolation on mental and physical health. Secondly, participants will be able to name 2 ways to cope with isolation. And thirdly, participants will be able to name 2 websites that have various resources for older adults.
In the first part of this presentation, we will talk about the effects of isolation on your physical and mental health.
So for physical health, isolation obviously can be very detrimental, and so it's very important to handle isolation as best that we can and try to limit the amount of isolation that we are experiencing, because as we get older we tend to stay in our houses more. There's less social activities, and especially given the COVID-19 pandemic, we have fewer and fewer opportunities to get out and to visit with other people. So for our physical health, some of the risk of isolation are going to be increased risk of overweight or obesity. And this can be because when we're at home more or when we're bored, we don't have as much to do, we might tend to mindlessly eat, and that can lead to being overweight or obesity. Secondly, we might experience a weakened immune system. We're not getting out as much, we're not outside, building up our immune system. Maybe we're not getting the variety of the diet that we did before, and so then our immune system is weaker, and so then when we do eat around other people, we might tend to get sick. And so we want to help prevent that as much as we can by making sure we do have a varied diet, that we are getting outside, getting that exercise, and that type of thing. Thirdly, there's an increased risk of cardiovascular disease, and we talked about this I think it was last video, and that can be very detrimental, and there's many different types of heart disease, but again, we want to make sure we're using nutrition and using exercise to help prevent that as much as we can. And then the last 2 are increased risk of hospitalization and premature death. And this may be related some to the mental side as well, but physically, if we are depressed or when we're alone, we're not getting that socialization from other people, we're not getting outside to exercise and to move our bodies, then we might see the tendency for our bodies to become weaker. We start to lose some of that muscle mass. Our bones start to lose some of their bone mineral density. And so then if we fall, we might end up in the hospital. And so we want to help prevent that by making sure that we're making a point to exercise and to get together with other people so that we're continuing to use our bodies in the way that they've been intended to.
Isolation also has a profound effect on our mental health. Isolation greatly reduces cognitive function and can increase the risk for Alzheimer's disease and dementia, and it can progress this disease in individuals who already have it. And a lot of this is because when we're isolated in our homes, we're not getting out and doing the activities that we normally do that stimulate our brains, and being around other people is also good for stimulating our brains. And when we're not around other people, not completing those activities that we normally do, it's not good for our brains. Isolation can also cause anxiety and depression because isolation makes people feel sad, lonely, even hopeless. Isolation, like I said, also decreases cognitive functions because your brains aren't getting the stimulation that they need that comes from those normal everyday activities. And finally, isolation causes insomnia and sleep disturbances that lead to poor quality sleep. And this can be because we're not in a routine. We might be going to bed late or staying up on our phones all night or sleeping really late and not having a good routine and a set wake-up time.
So the next part of this video is we're going to talk about how we can cope with isolation even due to the pandemic. So what can we do about the fact that we're all in some ways having to isolate right now?
The first thing we can do is have a daily routine. A daily routine is an effective way to deal with isolation. Daily routines provide routine and consistency, and we all know that this makes us feel normal and provides us with a sense of security. Having a daily routine alleviates stress. Instead of worrying about having nothing to do or about what you are going to do, a daily routine gives you a plan. Having a daily routine is also good for our natural body clocks, and keeping our natural body clocks in sync is good for our mental health and our physical health. A good way to keep a daily routine when you are isolated at home is to keep a calendar and write down what you are planning to do each day. In some of the next slides, we'll discuss some beneficial activities that you can complete each day.
So some of the activities that we can do to help minimize the detrimental effects of isolation can be reading, coloring, listening to classical music, maybe doing puzzles. The important thing is to find activities that you enjoy doing, because this can help to relieve stress and also to improve your mood. Many different puzzles and games can be cognitively stimulating, so therefore it's good to exercise your brain as well as your body to help keep you alive longer, essentially, and to help prevent some of that cognitive decline. So the important main point of this slide is to just find something you love, find a purpose, and that's going to keep you going even if you're having to isolate a little bit or you're struggling with loneliness.
Another activity that you might want to do are arts and crafts. Arts and crafts are cognitively stimulating, so they help improve your cognitive function. Doing arts and crafts can also improve your mood. Seeing your finished work and feeling proud of your work can increase the release of dopamine in your brain, which is also known as the feel-good molecule. This in turn improves your mood. Arts and crafts helps promote physical function in the hands, fingers, and wrist because it improves blood flow and dexterity in the hands, fingers, and wrists. And some good resources where you can find some ideas for arts and crafts are the Lowry Creative Hub and Luminate at Home. These are both websites that have some really cool arts and crafts tutorials and resources for older adults.
And the next thing is exercise. So I mentioned that we want to make sure we're exercising our brains, but we also want to exercise our body because this is going to keep everything moving and help it work properly. Even if you're struggling from maybe some type of injury or you had some surgery and maybe it hurts to move, getting into some physical therapy or doing some light exercise is going to be better than nothing because we want to keep everything moving, and it's also going to improve your mood. So exercising regularly supports brain health and immunity. So just by getting outside, moving every day, you're going to give your immune system that significant boost that it would not have had you just sat inside all day and not done anything active. And the second thing is when you exercise, blood flow to your brain actually increases. So you're going to get more oxygen, you're going to be filled with that serotonin hormone that makes you happy, that dopamine that Kennedy talks about, and it's going to make you feel better overall. So it's going to support that physical health, but it's also going to support that mental and emotional health as well. Thirdly, it helps us to manage our weight. So if we're struggling with being alone all day and maybe we do get bored and we want to start mindlessly eating, having regular exercise is going to help minimize the effects of that as well. And lastly, you can do any type of exercise. It can all count towards your weekly 150 minutes that we recommend. You can do walking, you can do dancing. There are so many different options for you to do. So the important thing is just find something you like, find a time that you can do it, set it into that routine, and that's going to really help you improve your mood as well as your physical and mental health. A resource that you might want to go and look at is the National Institute on Aging or the YMCA. They're both going to have some good exercises that are specifically for and designed for older adults.
Staying in contact with loved ones and friends helps you cope with isolation and the loneliness that isolation can cause. A good way to stay in contact with friends and loved ones is to schedule regular phone calls or video chats. So plan to FaceTime your grandkids at 6 every Sunday night, or plan to talk on the phone with a good friend of yours every Tuesday. Make a plan, put it in your calendar, put it in that daily routine, and try really hard to stick to it. Another option, depending on what your local guidelines are, or to have a gathering or a picnic 6 feet apart. In my grandmother's city, the guidelines are that people should be 6 feet apart. And so her and her friends meet in one of their friends' backyards every Thursday. They bring a lawn chair, they sit 6 feet apart, and they catch up and they talk. And it's a really good way to get out of the house and to kind of cope with that loneliness that isolation can cause. You also may want to look into finding some new opportunities in your area. And this can help you make new friends and meet new people. Places that you might go to find some of these new opportunities might be Facebook. If you use Facebook, these Facebook groups are a great way to find opportunities in your neighborhood or your community. The library, the National Institute on Aging, these are all great places to find some new opportunities. It can be scary to get out there and meet new people, but it's very beneficial for your physical health and for your mental health.
And you know we were going to add this one in, but the last part, or one of the last parts in here, is to eat a healthy diet. So making sure that you're getting as many nutrients into your diet as possible is going to help improve that physical and mental health. And you might be surprised, but it might actually improve your mood as well. Instead of getting these sugar highs and sugar lows, maintaining a consistent intake throughout the day is going to actually really help to stabilize your mood a little bit. So sometimes when we get lonely, we may tend to either overeat or undereat. So it's important to make sure we're mindful of how we're eating and making sure that we're eating enough, but not too much. So this can be obtained by eating balanced meals, and then having regular meal and snack times. Sometimes when we don't have as much going on, it can be really easy to get lax and not to eat regular meals. Now, you do want to eat when you're hungry, but it's also important to have those kind of set times so that you're not skipping a meal or you're not missing a meal and that type of thing. You also want to make sure that you're mindful of limiting foods that can increase your anxiety. So maybe those are those high sugary foods. I know that's my trigger. If I eat some really high sugary foods, I might tend to get a little more anxious because I have that kind of sugar crash after a little while. So making sure that you're choosing healthy foods that are right for you and foods that you enjoy. You can still enjoy treats. You can still enjoy ice cream and cookies and things as long as it fits into your diet. It can fit into your diet. So even if you're a diabetic or you have other health complications, the biggest thing is just to watch the portions of those foods. So eating things in moderation, balancing the amount of food that you're eating with exercise. And when you can kind of develop that balance that works for you and the foods that improve your mood instead of making you more anxious or depressed, then that's going to be where you're going to get that kind of harmony there that's going to make you feel really good.
If you are struggling, don't be afraid to ask for help from others and seek out community resources if you need them. You might need some inspiration for what to make for dinner. You might be struggling to kind of eat regular meals and snacks because you don't know what to make, or you might be struggling to make breakfast a part of your routine because there's nothing you like. Call a friend or call a family member and ask them what they've been making for breakfast or for dinner, and it might give you some really cool ideas and inspire you to start eating breakfast and start having a regular dinner. Using the internet or even an app like Pinterest is a great place to find some ideas. Maybe even a local cooking class. For a lot of people, the pandemic has also affected them financially, and you're not the only person in that boat. There's a lot of people who have been affected financially by the pandemic. So if you're struggling to afford food, a food bank would be a great place to go. And you shouldn't feel bad. There are plenty of people in the same position, and they are there to help you until you can get back on your feet. If you're struggling to make yourself meals, or maybe you had a caregiver who made your meals and you lost them during the pandemic, a resource like Meals on Wheels is a really great option. They prepare your meals and bring them to your house, and so that you have those regular meals to eat. It's not a bad thing to ask for help at all, and there's definitely no reason to feel ashamed. Plenty of people and plenty of resources are there to help you, and they want to help you.
All right, so this is a similar figure to what you may have seen in the first week if you watched the first video where we went through the MyPlate guidelines. And this one is specifically made for older adults. So there's a couple little tweaks in here. Your fruits and vegetables are still the same. We want those to be half of your plate. You've still got your grains, making as many of those whole grains as possible to get that fiber and to get those B vitamins in there. The dairy is still a part of this. We want you to consume that low-fat or fat-free dairy as much as you can. Protein is a big macronutrient that's important for older adults, so it's important to get enough protein as well as healthy fats, so those oils and things. The two tweaks to this figure compared to the normal MyPlate are we want to specifically focus on fluids for older adults. So we talked about that a little bit before in previous videos, but the important thing with this slide is that many different kinds of fluids can count to your total daily fluid intake. So water obviously can count, tea, juice, even some types of soups can all count towards your total daily fluid intake. And then the second thing that's a little changed on this slide is the herbs and spices. So we want you to move away from adding all of that salt into your food or eating those processed foods that contain a lot of that salt, because sometimes that can raise your blood pressure. And so using herbs and spices and a variety of different flavors to enhance your food can be a better option than having to add all that salt that cannot be as good for your health.
The last thing we will talk about is the importance of sleep when trying to cope with isolation. Sleep is extremely important for your mental health and for your immune system. Sufficient sleep helps your brain process emotional information. A lack of sleep is actually harmful to retaining positive information, and a lack of sleep can worsen mental health conditions that already exist. People who do not get enough sleep are more likely to get sick as well, and are more likely to take longer to recover. Antibodies and cells that fight against infection are also reduced when we don't get enough sleep. So sleep is very important. Since the pandemic, experts have actually said that half of Americans are having trouble falling asleep and staying asleep. And this insomnia that they say has been brought on by the pandemic is actually called coronasomnia. Sleep can improve long and term cognitive function. Sleep can promote sharper thinking, and it may even reduce the likelihood of cognitive decline. You might be saying that it's hard for you to fall asleep, or you constantly wake up during the night. And one way that experts say that you can prevent this from happening is to set a specific wake time, wind down time, and bedtime. This is something you might want to put in your daily routine and set a specific time for. During your wind down time, you should put your screens away. There has been a lot of research about how blue light from your screens affect your sleep. Blue light can make it hard for us to fall asleep, to stay asleep, to have good quality sleep. So putting screens away about an hour before you're ready to go to bed is very important. And experts recommend that older adults get 7 to 8 hours of good quality sleep per night.
In the final section of this video, we're going to talk about some resources for older adults that you can use when you're struggling with loneliness or isolation.
So there is a website called Senior Planet that is run by AARP. This is a really neat website that has a variety of activities and resources for older adults 60 years and older. As I was looking through this website, I just saw such a diverse offering of things there was, workout videos for older adults. One of them was Tai Chi, one of them was yoga. There was different discussion groups, like an aging discussion group and a book club. There was recipes to try. There were arts and craft projects to try. So this will be a really neat website to look at if you're just needing some ideas about things to do during the day or some activities to complete, and may also be a place where you can connect with other people to really help combat that loneliness and those that isolation can bring on.
This next website is called GetSetupio, and it has a lot of free online classes that teach older adults how to use technology and online resources. So they have videos on how to use Excel, how to use different programs on the computer. So if you are a little bit lagging behind in the technology aspect of things, but you want to get more adept at using technology and using your computer, or maybe ordering your own groceries online, this website is going to be a good resource for you because it can help to teach you all of those things on your computer and how to use them just by watching those videos.
The next website is suddenlysenior.com, and this is more of a lighthearted website. It has different articles, trivia, and quizzes for older adults. So these are just some activities and some reading that you could do during the day. A lot of the material just looked pretty fun, pretty lighthearted, definitely humorous, which we can all use a little humor when we are feeling isolated at home.
So some community resources that you can use are going to, number one, be your library. This is a free resource for you, so even if you don't have a lot of financial freedom at the moment, using your library, you can find all kinds of things. Obviously, there's books and magazines and DVDs. You can go there to use the computer, but you can even do a lot of things online. So if you do have some skill or at the computer, you can get on, you can learn languages, you can play games, you can listen to audiobooks, which is a really cool feature of most libraries offer some type of audiobook program. And so I'd encourage you to, if you haven't already, to go to your local library, get a library card and start using it to gain some of that free resources that you have at your disposal. Senior centers are another great option for those struggling with loneliness, and they have many different programs. You might just want to check first before you go to see what their current COVID policies are. I'm hoping that a lot of those are going to open up soon, so you can get back and get engaged with other people in your community. A lot of times they will have community meals that you can go and meet other people who are your same age or in your same stage of life. The area agencies on aging, which is who we're doing the video for right now, is another option for getting some more knowledge and some insight onto what it means to be a senior citizen. Elder Care Locator is another resource, as well as Meals on Wheels. This is another resource. You just have to call and sign up, or perhaps it's online in some places, but it's a national organization that is run locally, and they provide meals to seniors free of charge. So if you are someone who needs a meal and you don't have a lot of finances right now, or you're struggling in the kitchen, or you don't have the physical ability to shop and prepare your own meals, this might be a resource for you, because they will actually bring meals to your door that you can reheat and eat. The YMCA is going to be your resource for exercise. So if you want to get into a yoga class, or you want to start doing some water aerobics, your local YMCA is a good place to start.
Finally, here are some activities that you might want to try today. So when you wake up, you might want to write down everything that you plan to do today and kind of set yourself up with a routine, a schedule. You might want to go for a walk. This could be through your neighborhood, or even if your neighborhood's not a good option for taking a walk, you can still walk around the downstairs of your house or around your dining room table, walk in place. There are even some cool online videos that you can find, like that are walking videos for walking in place. You may want to look through some old photo albums, or it might be a good idea to put your photos in a photo album. If you're like me, you print them and you just always forget to put them in the album. So looking through those old memories and talking about them are really good for your brain. You might want to call an old friend or reach out to somebody you just haven't talked to in a while and try to rekindle that friendship. Finally, try to cook a healthful dinner. You may want to look up a new recipe that you haven't tried before, or call a friend and see what they're cooking. Cook a good, balanced dinner that is healthy and that incorporates whole grains, vegetables, protein, and all the things that we talked about in the slide about eating healthy and on the MyPlate slide.
All right, thank you guys for listening today. One last thing to kind of sum it all up is to combat loneliness and isolation, it's important to have a purpose. So waking up and knowing what you're going to do that day. What are you going to do to help combat that loneliness and isolation in your life and to improve your mood? So I hope that you have found this presentation helpful, and we will see you next time. Thank you very much.